Has HYBE really lost control of BTS? When news of Taehyung's departure broke, the whole world froze. And more than that, what hurts the most is when Jungkook, BTS's icon of strength and spirit, is reportedly completely devastated emotionally. While HYBE was still silent and reluctant to give clarity, armies around the world began to sue. How could a company as big as HYBE, which was built on BTS's success, actually fail to keep the golden formation that has always been a symbol of solidarity, dreams, and togetherness? Recently, the public atmosphere has become more and more cloudy. The issue of Taehyung deciding to step down from BTS can no longer be dismissed as mere speculation. There were no firm objections from the agency. No official statement is reassuring. Instead, there was a mass confusion that sparked the anger, disappointment, and tears of millions of ARMY. Many began to question what exactly was going on behind the closed doors of HYBE. The initial chronology is quite vague, but very emotional. Taehyung, who has been known to be quiet, gentle, and full of meaning in every word, showed a striking change in attitude over the past few months. In some interviews, social media posts, even his attitude in promotional videos, it is seen that he is increasingly withdrawing. There's distance created, smooth but feels very sharp. And in a world that has been watching BTS intensively for a long time, even small things like changes in body language can be big signals. But what really made the emotional outburst happen was Jungkook's response. In a very brief but jarring live broadcast, Jungkook couldn't hide his sadness. He didn't say directly that Taehyung was leaving BTS, but words like, "I should have done more," "everything feels too late," and the look in his empty eyes was enough to give the impression that something had broken, and it wasn't a small thing. Now, the spotlight has shifted, not only to Taehyung and Jungkook, but to HYBE as an entity that is considered to have failed to keep their biggest assets. The fans question the integrity of the management. Have BTS members really been given space to grow, or have they been pressured by the company's expectations and strategies? Has HYBE focused too much on business expansion, stocks, and acquisitions, forgetting their original reason for reaching the top, the togetherness and wholeness of BTS? Independent analysis from a number of industry observers suggests that HYBE is in a very sensitive condition. They have invested heavily in many lines outside of BTS, such as buying other agencies, developing digital platforms, and building a global entertainment ecosystem. But all of that still stands on the main foundation, BTS. So when one of the 7 pillars of the BTS starts to wobble, the whole building could crack. What made the public even more frustrated was HYBE's silence. Instead of providing clarification to calm the chaos, they released neutral statements such as, "We support every step of our artists," without giving a clear picture. In times like these, obscurity becomes fuel for speculation, especially when trusted accounts in the fandom community began to leak that Taehyung's decision was not a spontaneous reaction, but the result of a long process unknown to the public. Some sources even mention that Taehyung has long questioned his position within BTS. Not because of not loving the group, but because of the conflict of values and the discrepancy with the chosen direction of the company. Taehyung is a true artist. He needs space, sincerity, and freedom in expression. But did HYBE give him that, or suppress him in an increasingly rigid framework of commercialization? In this event, Jungkook became the most highlighted figure. Because the relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook is not just a coworker relationship. They are best friends, brothers, and in many moments, appear to depend on each other. So when Taehyung starts to drift away, it's no wonder Jungkook feels that part of him is also missing. Behind his status as the golden magne, Jungkook is a human who can get hurt. And the wound this time seems too deep. But what made everything even more bitter was the reaction of the cold-looking HYBE. There was no open support for Jungkook's mental state. There is no protection against the privacy of Taehyung, who is now terrorized by questions and criticism from various directions. Is this a form of systemic failure on the part of management that prefers to preserve the image of the company to the well-being of its artists? Conspiracy theories began to emerge. Some say that Taehyung actually wanted to resign before enlistment, but was held under contract. Some believe that Jungkook knew of this decision earlier, but was not allowed to speak. In the most extreme, there are even allegations that HYBE deliberately let BTS break up in order to maximize the individual value of the members as a solo brand. Although there are no official facts to justify all that yet, this narrative continues to evolve because there is no transparency. And in an entertainment world so sensitive to public perception, dishonesty can backfire devastatingly. The question now is, where is BTS heading in the future? Will they continue with the new formation? Is this the beginning of a bigger split? And most importantly, will the members still be able to heal each other's now open wounds? Meanwhile, the ARMY continued to cry. They not only cry over a possible breakup, but also the fact that their idols are suffering and no one really stands up for them. Behind the glittering stage lights, there is loneliness, conflict, and feelings of distress that do not always appear on the surface. In the long history of K-pop, there has never been a group as big as BTS that has experienced a moment of tension of this magnitude without a single soothing clarification. And if HYBE stays silent, they may lose something far more valuable than reputation: trust. Now, the eyes of the world are fixed on one point, all waiting for one statement, one answer, one action that can restore hope. Will HYBE rise up and correct the mistake? Or will it continue to mask this crisis with sweet narratives and empty promises? One thing's for sure, this isn't just any news about idols stepping down from the group. This is an emotional tragedy that touched millions of hearts. And if not dealt with honesty and empathy, this wound will be the saddest chapter in BTS's journey, a story of dreams, sacrifice, and faith that may never be put back together again. But despite all the emotional turmoil, sharp speculation, and tears that have flowed from millions of ARMY, it is important to emphasize one very basic thing. The news of Taehyung's departure from BTS and Jungkook's emotional breakdown as a result of the decision has not been proven to be factually correct until now. The narrative that is widespread on social media and online forums is largely based on speculation, assumptions, pieces of video taken out of context, and the absence of official statements that are used as loopholes to form wild opinions. The first fact to note is that until now there has been no official statement from HYBE, Taehyung, or Jungkook stating that any BTS member has resigned from the group. In fact, the latest statement released by the agency confirmed that BTS will continue to run as a group with all of its members after completing military service. The solo activities they are currently doing are not a form of separation, but rather part of an individual career strategy that remains within the BTS umbrella. So, the assumption that Taehyung unilaterally left the group has no legal basis or solid facts to support it. Secondly, Jungkook's supposedly crushed reaction must also be viewed with wider glasses. The piece of live video that was taken as the basis for the speculation was actually part of a larger and regular interaction he had. Jungkook is known as an expressive and easily moved figure, especially when talking about ARMY and his memories with BTS. Sentences such as "I'm too late" or "I should have done more" often appear in a nostalgic context, not as an indication of conflict or deep regret for the other members' decision. There is no real evidence that Jungkook's emotions are directly related to the issue of Taehyung's exit, as there has never been an explicit statement about it. Third, the narrative that HYBE failed to keep BTS is also oversimplified. It should be understood that BTS is not just a product of HYBE, but they are working partners who have grown together in a complex, mutually forming, and dynamic relationship for more than a decade. Blaming one party unilaterally, without understanding the business context, contractual agreements, and personal dynamics of the members is an unfair approach. BTS has been given tremendous creative freedom, both in music, solo projects, and his decision to enlist according to regulations. Instead, HYBE's policy of allowing members to explore their potential individually shows that the agency is still maintaining BTS's integrity with a modern, long-term approach. Fourth, Taehyung's posts that are considered signals of separation also need to be seen as an artistic expression of a complex and contemplative artist. Taehyung often shares poetic, reflective, and profound quotes about life. This is part of his identity as a person who likes to think about time, the past, and the meaning of existence. Interpreting every sentence or lyric as a sign of backing away from BTS is a form of overanalysis that often occurs amid a huge, highly emotional fandom. Even on several occasions, Taehyung has clearly stated that he loves BTS like home and that this group is his place to return to. No matter how far he pursues his personal projects, social media is often the place where rumors develop very quickly. In today's digital age, a 10-second piece of video can generate thousands of speculative articles in a matter of hours. But it is important for all parties, especially the army, not to immediately believe every narrative that circulates without validation. The truth is not always on the surface, and sometimes, silence does not mean abandonment, but a form of protection against something greater. Finally, it is worth emphasizing that BTS is still intact. Taehyung didn't come out. Jungkook is not destroyed, and HYBE has not failed. What is happening is a transitional period, a reflective phase, and the reshaping of a new direction after a dense and monumental decade. A long journey certainly needs room to breathe, and that's what BTS members are currently going through. Moments like this are not a sign of destruction, but proof that they are human beings who continue to grow.